Hey guys, we are late again.
Yeah.
Only 7 minutes
Hey,
this
that's not
time.
bad. That's not bad.
So I'm Dennis, Chrissy, camera in the top corner. Of course, Alex down here. Just
Hello,
because
everybody.
he's on the bottom, he's just got strong shoulders.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, like the pyramids for the cheerleaders.
Oh, how is everyone doing this evening?
Hanging in there, waiting for
Good
these
deal.
storms that we're supposed to get tomorrow. Apparently,
Yeah.
I know. I think they're. Tamara, are you getting some storms up there where you're at? I thought I saw something was going on.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're talking about some storms. I haven't paid attention. I had a conference this weekend. I was really busy, so got to wait. Haven't seen what tomorrow brings yet, but I've heard talks about storms. So hopefully, passes by easily.
Yeah.
Because didn't Nebraska just get hit recently with some bad ones?
Yeah, we actually had a tornado that was about I don't know, it was near Fort Calhoun, so it was just a little north of us. So
oh goodness.
So
yeah.
But yeah, so we were keeping our eye on it, and thankfully it was far enough away, and it wasn't terrible. It did cause some damage, but it wasn't a big terrible storm, at least not like last year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I know that there was an actual. I was watching one of the other, the storm people, the chasers. I was watching them early this morning, and they were basically like, we've had some storms this year, but Kansas has really lucked out on anything nasty. I mean, we really haven't had any nasty storms. I mean, I think we've only had one or two light thunderstorms. I mean,
yeah. Now you just jinxed us, right?
Yeah.
No, just knock on some wood. It's all good. Knock
on wood
Alex.
for you. Camera, happy thoughts, right? Happy thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Plan for the best. Hope for the best.
I remember.
There's a. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
When the last storm went through, there's a YouTuber my husband found called Max Velocity.
Yeah.
And he's amazing. And we actually saw the tornado as it was forming on his video for the one that was north of us. It was amazing. Yeah.
The only thing that catches me off about Max Velocity is I usually watch him when I first get up in the morning, and if I eat breakfast at home, I'll watch his weather forecast. But he always would start off, and right over Kansas, it looks like the world is coming to an end, full of storms, reds and blues on radar. And I go outside, and it's perfectly sunny. There's nothing on our personal radar when you pull it up on your phone. So I'm not sure if he just does that just to suck people in to get them to watch or exactly what. But there's lots of times his stuff, there's nothing there, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
See, that's what he's doing. It works.
Yeah, it was. We watched him actually as it was the storms before that went through Kentucky and Tennessee and all that area. We actually have I have a friend in Paducah, Kentucky, and actually a friend in Iowa too. And I texted him, before, it's like, oh, by the way, to go somewhere safe. And they were glad to hear it. And it hit around when he said it would. So I don't know. I mean, I've only watched him a couple times, but so far it's been pretty accurate. So
yeah.
Well, now, like I said, you've jinxed us, Alex. So thank you.
I'm sorry. We'll probably get nailed tomorrow.
Yes.
I'll end up having somebody's furniture and swimming pool in my yard.
Yeah. Right.
Hopefully it's not a trampoline.
Yeah.
Trampoline. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
So
we have
Melissa and Mac, Aaron, Dow, Byron. Hope you guys are doing good. And Byron, it's good to see you back on here again. And Dow, it's been a while. Glad to see you tonight. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah. Glad to see everybody.
Yeah. Welcome all.
We have an actual crowd. So,
and tonight our topic is the Randy Leach case. And Jen.
Hi, Jen.
How you doing, Jen?
Oh, she's driving. Be careful, please.
And there's Catfish.
Oh, there's Bobby.
Oh,
so
Lord.
Tonight the topic is Randy Leach, but before we get into that, Chrissy wants to share some updates in a case that she has been working on. So we'll let you go ahead and.
I know if you watched the other day, we did a kind of a trial run where I did my own case, and it was about Richard Dean Jones. He's a veteran that went missing. I don't have much more to talk about, but I do have a few more things I want to say. There was supposed to be a part 2, and honestly, this is probably going to have to be part 2 because there's really, I mean, Denny and I, we've talked about it. This is a very odd case, but so Matt Moore, Lieutenant Matt Moore, I guess is the investigating detective with all this. He says that he believes that there was no crime committed with all this. They're very limited on what they can do, obviously, for that reason. But he did say something that kind of bothered me a little bit, and it may just be me overthinking it. But when you sit there and say it's not a crime to go missing, that just didn't sit right with me. I really hope I'm not the only one that thinks that, but
no, for an adult, they do look at it that way. And there's cases to where it does turn out that a crime was committed. Just the evidence of that wasn't apparent and was hard to find.
Yeah.
So, for an adult to go missing without any signs of abduction or something like that, it hinders the investigation.
I think it just, for what we do in all this, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, but I understand. Okay, now Richard Jones made some bank transactions in House Springs near the end of March of 2022. He was actually spotted at an ATM at the BP gas station near Highway 30 and Highway Y. And then go ahead.
I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
You're okay. The Dollar General video that they said they were able to catch him on wasn't obtained until June or July of 2022. Unfortunately, by the time they were given that footage, it had been written over. So unfortunately, they don't know if that was him on the video or not, after all. Let's see.
That's what I was going to say. Was there any type of camera footage from the ATM or anything else surrounding buildings, to verify if it really was him or not?
Right.
Now the ATM was verified by video, wasn't it?
Yes. So the ATM, that was him. I mean, weird and all. But unfortunately, the footage that they found at the Dollar General, they don't have any clue if that was him or not.
So the ATM footage, was that down near the campground river place that we had discussed, or is that back up by St. Louis by the other location?
That would be back, I would think, in the town he was in, because it was House Springs. So it's actually in the town he was at, where he was living. So
now this wasn't far from where the campground was and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Moore did say that the members of the missing persons Facebook group and members of the military have contacted the sheriff's office to assist in the search. But unfortunately, there's still not much they can say. The military does have a general interest in this, though, because he was a member of the military. And the one thing I get is you have military members that go missing all the time. What is so significant about this one? That's what I want to know.
That's one of my questions.
Yeah.
And they're saying because he had been a member of the military, 18-year Air Force veteran, correct? Mm-hmm. Do we know how long it's been that he's been out of the military?
That all it ever states is 18 years Air Force. So that's the only thing. I mean, there's really, unless anybody, like any of you out there, can find any more information on him, that'd be great. But I don't know what else I can do. So what?
She said we're really gray on him.
I know, we're doing it old school on our end tonight. We usually have lights up. So
You guys need to pull out the disco ball
I know, right?
There we go.
and the glow
I
stick.
think you're older than that. That's the 50s.
Yeah, black and white. This is the what?
40s.
The 40s here. We need to get our flapper dress. Oh, there it is. Hey, I can see. We're still black and white. Anyway, guys, that is really all I have left of Richard. I'm still going to keep looking. Maybe I've overlooked something, but at the moment, that's it. I think Richard decided he was done and wanted to go and not be found. So,
Well, of course, we won't give up, and we'll keep looking.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the location of interest, which we have discussed before, was close to another case, and a location of interest on that one. So, when we get out of this rainy, unfortunately for us, where we are at, we haven't had that much rain. We've had, it rained last night, but down south, southwestern Missouri, southeastern Kansas, up where, we had some other locations for some cases we were going to go. We had a whole weekend planned to go. Unfortunately, it poured rain for like a week straight in that area, which, caused issues for everybody. But hopefully soon we can get back down in that area and look at this case, look at the other case we were going to look at, and just, get some boots on the ground and just do a little research and see what we can find. So
we'll eventually get there, but at the moment right now, it's kind of a dead end. I think the next step is boots on the ground and actually, going to this area because, there's not much left at all to search online.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, that's all I have left on Richard Dean Jones. So.
Okay.
We'll definitely keep all of you guys updated if more information is found, but we're definitely going to have to go to the area.
Okay.
Anyway, all right.
All right.
Time to talk about Randy.
So, guys, Randy Leach, just over 37 years now that he's been missing. His family, unfortunately, they don't have any more answers today than they did 37 years ago. So let's start. Do you want to do the basics?
Sure. Do you have pictures of them that you can throw up there? Okay. You ready? Yeah. All right. Randy Leach, missing since 4/15 of 1988. He's missing from Linwood, Kansas. A non-family abduction is the classification they have it under. Male, white, date of birth 7/25 of 70, which would make him 54 today, right? Would that make him that old today?
No.
Oh, all right. He was 17 years old at the time, 6'3", 220 pounds. He was wearing a blue pocket t-shirt, blue Levi jeans, white low-cut sneakers, and white socks. There was a vehicle involved, a gray four-door 1985 Dodge sedan with the Kansas plate number LVJ 8721. Brown hair, blue eyes. Randy had a mole on his left ear. Now, Randy was a senior at Linwood High School in 88. He left his home at 6:30 p.m. to attend a friend's pre-graduation party in a rural area 5 miles east of her residence on April 5th of 88. Before arriving at the party, he stopped at Stout's convenience store and purchased some candy, soft drinks, and gas. Then he talked to some friends, then went to DeSoto to check on the car his family was having restored for him as a graduation present. As the result of these errands, Randy did not arrive at the party until between 9:30 and 10. He was driving his mother's gray four-door 85 Dodge sedan with the Kansas plate LVJ 8721 and carried about $50 to $60 in cash. There were between 70 to 150 guests at the party, and there was allegedly considerable drug and alcohol use by mostly teenage guests. Witnesses reported Randy was acting drunk, but it's unclear whether he actually consumed any alcohol, and told a friend he didn't know what was wrong. And he had told a friend he didn't know what was wrong, excuse me. He may have left the party between 1:30 and 2 a.m., but some witnesses reported seeing him there as late as 2:15, and no one actually saw him leave. Randy never returned home and has not been heard from again. He was reported missing by his parents on April 16th. He had a 12:30 a.m. curfew at the time he vanished and usually honored it. His parents slept undisturbed through the night and did not realize that their son hadn't come home until they woke at 6 a.m. the next day. They first thought he had been in a car accident and called one of his friends, who said she hadn't heard from him. Randy's parents then contacted police. Investigators went to the site of the party Randy had attended, and it had already been cleaned up and there was no evidence to be found. Authorities do not believe Randy left on his own accord. Since he left behind the 66 Ford Mustang that was restored, and his friends and family say he had no plans to leave home. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do after graduating high school, but he was thinking of enrolling in a trade school. His father describes him as an entrepreneur and a hard worker. He was an excellent student and enjoyed outdoor pursuits, particularly fishing, in '88. Randy's mother still lives in the old house and are hopefully that she will someday get the answers as to his fate. Randy's father, Harold, sadly passed away January 28th of 21 after a lengthy illness. Randy's father and mother, the house where the party was held, never gave up hope and never quit searching for their son, Randy Leach. The house was shortly destroyed by a fire after, okay, did I miss something? Was destroyed by a fire shortly after Randy's disappearance.
Copy and paste messed up.
Oh.
So the party location.
The party location was caught on fire and shortly after Randy disappeared. Rumors swirled about insurance fraud, but the house was reportedly uninsured. Rumors also swirled that it was possibly purposely burned to hide evidence. The fact that law enforcement and Randy's parents searched the house and property, it doesn't make sense that it was burned to hide evidence. The pond located on the property where the party took place was not only searched, but it wasn't even there till several years after the party took place. More rumors circulated that Randy was abducted and killed by a satanic cult that was supposedly active in the Linwood area. Later in '88, a man told police that he had been kidnapped by the cult and held in a cave for 2 weeks and had seen a corpse there that might have been Randy's. Though there is controversy about the following and reports showing a heated exchange between two counties, Leavenworth Sheriff's Department say they searched the cave and found no indication that a crime had been committed there. They decided that the man had hallucinated the experiences. There were 3 individuals who were arrested on charges of kidnapping and murder, but they were released without charges several days later, and investigators admitted they had been mistaken about the men's involvement in Randy's case. There are also reports that they didn't have enough evidence to secure a conviction. An adult acquaintance of Randy's, one of the last people to see him, found a severed foot on the banks of the Kansas River in March of 1989. The foot was not Randy's. Randy's parents say the man drove past their house going about 10 miles per hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone on the morning they discovered Randy's disappearance. Do you want me to say that name? The adult acquaintance, by the way, was Stephen. What's his last name?
I keep saying Daltrey, but
Doherty. Yeah, Steve Doherty. Okay, let me see here. The individual has since died, and it is not known if he had anything to do with Randy's disappearance. Several other people who attended the party that night are also deceased. Some reports state that Randy left the party at 6:30. In fact, that was when he left home to go to the party. He was declared legally dead in 2001. In 2006, the disappearance received additional publicity when a University of Kansas student wrote a play about his case entitled Leafs of Words. It was performed in Lawrence, Kansas. Randy's case to this day still remains unsolved. Ooh.
So the party location on 166th Street are the Irwin residents. It has come up multiple times, people asking, has that place been searched? People need to get on it. That was searched pretty extensively, not only by Randy's family, law enforcement. Richard Rose, when Alberta called him the morning of the 16th, he went to the party location too and looked around. Several of Randy's friends were all in the house and on the property. Of course, the neighbors are the ones that flew up or got somebody to fly them in an airplane to search the location. And that pond wasn't there in 1988. So I think that particular location was gone over very thoroughly. I don't believe the house burning had anything to do with hiding evidence. Although the fire marshal did say it looked like somebody poured gasoline down the hallway and lit it ablaze. And it actually caught fire twice. The first time they were able to get it out. The second time is when it fully burned. And we were able to find that the house was not insured. So this was not an insurance case.
Right.
Yeah, if I remember right, the Irwins, if I remember right, and I could be wrong, I will say that I could be wrong, but it seems like through my conversations with other people that the Irwins had left and had stopped making payments on the house, and they were letting it foreclose. And at some point, the insurance had lapsed, and that's when supposedly sometime after that, that's when the house was burned. I don't think it was fraud on the Irwin's part, because why would they screw up? They already had a situation that was ending with a foreclosure. I would think the last thing they would do would be to go in and burn the house when there's no insurance on it, trying to make an insurance claim to save the foreclosure, when if they knew they stopped making payments on their house, eventually at some point the insurance was probably going to lapse if somebody wasn't doing something. I don't think they're the ones that did it. I could be wrong, but to logically make sense of it, I don't think they would have done that.
Right.
You know, we've had a lot of discussions about the Irwin house, you know, and one of my good friends is the one who lived next door. You know, him and I have had many, many discussions. He is the one with his father that went up in the plane and looked for Randy the following days, you know. You know, we've had the discussion about the pond, and, you know, we know that through information and historical images that wasn't there when that time period happened. And that's where I feel that a lot of people who look at Randy Leach's case, they automatically, and I've voiced my opinions on this, and this is my opinion, but so many people jump so quick to do, well, what, haven't you looked here? Haven't you done this? Haven't you done that? And the amount of misinformation that's put out on social media, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, whatever, TikTok, people don't do their research before they open their mouths. And I know for the most part, you know, not everybody does. They grab it, whatever, you know, and just even a few months ago, there was people posting on there, well, has people checked the property where the party was at? And it's like, oh, wow, you're the first person to think of this in 30 some years. Let's go. Why didn't we think of that 30 years ago? You know? So, you know, but the Irwin house, there's been so many things that have been discussed about it. I mean, we've heard stories about, you know, let's discuss the whole party being cleaned up. Why did the party get cleaned up by the next morning? Well, it's because the Irwin father was supposedly getting out of jail the next morning or whatever. And that was the whole thing is, yeah, you kids can have a party, but it's got to be spotless by the time we go pick him up. You know, we had heard that, you know, something had happened to Randy and that the dad did concrete work on the side. And supposedly he was buried in the basement, that they had cut up a chunk of the basement floor and buried Randy there and poured the concrete back because his dad knew how to do concrete. You know, there's so many rumors and stuff that revolves around the Irwin's house that, you know, at this point, it's still just theories and rumors and accusations because nobody has found Randy to this day. There's no leads to anything, you know, besides what I just said. So, you know, the Irwin residence is definitely a subject to be discussed when it comes to Randy's case, but I think we can only lead a horse to water so many times. And that's all you're going to get. You know, it is what it is. So,
yeah, if that property had enters on it, I think they would be found as many people that have been there.
37 years worth.
Now, granted, the previous owners there had a sign up, no trespassing, do not enter, great big out on the front gate.
Yep.
Which I get because that house constantly has people knocking on the door.
Right.
You know, has this place been searched? We need to get on and search this. And basically it sounds like they just got tired of that.
Yeah.
I don't know if the new owners, because it was up for sale a couple years ago. So I don't know if they have sold it and if the new owners have the sign up still. Jen says there's no evidence at all other than eyewitnesses placing him at the party. Yes. And that's another thing that always kind of struck me because, you know, so many people seen him at the party that without a doubt he was there, but nobody has reported seeing him leave.
Somebody, I swear, somebody had to. My goodness.
Yeah. And another thing that we've discussed is Randy was pretty good about being at home on time on his curfew.
Oh, yeah.
It's been made aware. People have discussed it. I think the Leaches one time had said stuff that, hey, you know, if Randy was going to be late, Randy found a way to call home. But for the most part, Randy was always at home by midnight. And you know, what was the mileage distance from the party location to Randy's home? Was it and since we have Jen on here, I'm sure if you can't pull it up, Jen can. Because I'm sure Jen has researched it and she knows exactly what the mileage is.
Hold on, Denny's getting
But let's just say
he's getting his box of information out here. Hi, Lacey.
But when you look at the bigger picture is it whether Randy was intoxicated, high, not anything, just normal, I'm pretty sure he would have known that he had to be home by midnight or he was going to be in trouble. So, you know, I've always said in my mind that whatever happened to Randy, I would believe probably happened between 11:30 and midnight.
Right.
Because if it only took him 8 to 10 minutes to drive home, 15 minutes max to drive home, even if he was intoxicated and had to go the back way, I think he could still get home within 15 minutes. So that was always my mind thought of the party. This is when he had to leave. So all these people that made comments that they saw him at 2:00, 1:30, you know, I kind of have a hard time thinking that is a possibility because he was so he knew he had to be home, you know, and not once has there ever been a document or anything that's ever come up and Harold or Alberta said, well, yes, Randy called us at 11:30 and said that he was going to be late. There was nothing ever discussed. Nothing has ever been brought up like that tells us he had a pass to be late.
Right.
So was the Leaches already in bed by midnight? I mean, that's something we got to think about, because
I can't confirm if they were or not. I have had people say that they were playing cards with some friends that evening, but I don't know anything about time frames, and I have not been able to confirm, what they were doing that evening.
Now, Jen just said they most likely knew. Hold on, most likely knew he was there because they interacted with him at some point. Likely nobody interacted with him on the departure. That happens a lot. I mean,
that would be pretty normal.
And then,
well, I know one of the people that saw him there that was sitting in the lawn chairs. We've heard that story, that group of people. So there is people that say, yes, we did see him there. Besides the one lady, which I'm not going to mention her name at this point, but because she's not on good terms with me because I upset her by saying something. But anyways, the simple fact is yes, there was other people that did see him there that night. And that, of course, there is reports that they have, stated that. But I think like Jen said, and like, the other stuff is I don't think there's anybody that says, well, yeah, I saw him pull out the driveway in the car, or I saw some guy or some woman driving the car and they left the driveway. He literally was gone from the location.
I mean, how many other people did see other people leave? I mean, there had to have been people leaving off and on all night.
A party like that, when it's a bunch of teenagers, there's going to be people in and out throughout the whole thing. Yeah. So
you're not going to be going, okay, who's that leaving right now? Who is that? I mean, that's
So there's drinking going on too, that
right.
Might not remember.
Yeah. And then Aaron said, did Randy wear a watch? I don't think so. He didn't have one.
Well, I think we've had that discussion in the past, because I think at one time somebody brought up the watch, and then somebody else brought up which wrist he wore it on, which side. And I think there was some pictures floating around or something where somebody had seen a watch on his arm or something. So I know we have discussed that has been brought up before about the watch. So, Aaron, do you mind going into further details why you're asking that question by chance?
The only picture that I could see is, let's see.
Oh. That does kind of look like shadows, so that could be possibly a watch. I would say,
I think that's it's hard to tell in this picture, but it does look like he's wearing a watch on his left wrist.
So.
Yeah, I can't remember. I mean, we've done so many episodes on Randy, but I cannot remember. I'm not sure. Maybe it was the night we were discussing the National Geographic's pictures, because we might have been discussing the watch, if he wore a watch, and also the way he parted his hair. Because I think, if I remember right, people were asking, did he always part it in the front to one side, that widow's peak or whatever they call it? I'm not quite sure on, exactly remembering that.
He ran in there to see if Megan can tell what it is too.
Okay.
That's on his. Okay, Aaron said if he was punctual all the time, he would have had to have wore a watch. This was long before cell phones, and there wasn't a clock outside unless it was his mom's car, unless his mom's car had one. Well, what'd she say?
Yeah.
That is very, very
It does
true.
look like a watch. So in this picture, it does look like he is wearing a watch on his left arm or left wrist. Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
I don't know what that was.
I agree with what Aaron says there, because he's his mom has, and even Harold, when he was alive on the Adventures of Purpose,
Right.
Profile in Evil, said he was very punctual. He wasn't late for curfew, always on time.
Yeah.
So he would have to have a watch,
Right.
to be able.
Yeah.
Go into it.
I don't know. I just, all the conversations we've had about stuff, I really feel that time period that night was very critical. And of course, we know very few people had phones of any sort at that time period.
I don't even think they came out with the big bag phones yet, did they? I think that was really 90s.
My father had one because my father was in construction, and he did have one in his truck, but it was the big giant bag phone thing that you could take in and out of your vehicle. So, and I believe at that point that most all cars at that time either had some type of mechanical clock or they had a clock on the radio.
Now, Denny's showing you the brochure for the car, and in the dash right there where the radio I'm pointing the mouse up to it like you can see that. Anyway, there is a clock in there. It's right on the dash.
It's on the radio.
Yeah, I'm pointing the mouse up towards it so you guys can see better.
Dennis, why don't you show them what that exactly is?
Yeah.
So I bought this for us to use as reference stuff. So that is the factory 1985 Dodge 600 dealership brochure.
I still don't think I'm getting the clock, but it's
it's right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
It says 1204 or something on it.
But if you would go, just like today, if you go to a dealership and you look at a vehicle, you can usually pick up a brochure or something to take home with you to look at.
Right.
So I had purchased that, a couple years ago for us for reference reasons. That way, there's Tammy going in and out of the background.
I was going to say, look out, you have a ghost behind you or something.
But there was, I thought the brochure would be good for basically looking at if we found car parts, maybe we could look at the brochure and look at pieces of trim, or we might find a fender or a door of something that was buried, and it would be a good reference point. So,
convertible? Was it a convertible?
No.
Theirs wasn't a convertible.
No.
Okay.
And something else to go off of is I believe through our research and talking to other people that they had mentioned that Randy's mother's car was the darker of the gray colors. So the car that was actually in the video that you guys saw, that is the car model, but it's not the right color.
Right.
And also, we never had any confirmation from anybody on what exactly the hubcaps looked like. Were they wire hubcaps? Because Dodge offered many different kinds of hubcaps at that time on those cars. So, unfortunately, we do not have a picture of the actual car. I mean, the car that they owned that Randy was driving. We do not have a picture of it. And I am sure that the Leaches would probably have a picture somewhere. But, nobody has ever presented this and said, here, this is the car. This was the Leach's car, for the people to share. So
back then, that was pretty snazzy, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the one in the brochure has the, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got the wire hubcaps.
Yeah. Most of the dark colored ones that if you Google that model car and you look at the dark color ones, they did have the wire hubcaps on them. And if I remember right, let me think here. I think at one time we looked up the VIN number and their car was the turbo model. It did have the turbocharger, which I think was a 4-cylinder with the turbo. I think it was a higher end version of the car, even though they did offer a 6-cylinder, but they offered a 4-cylinder turbo model.
Okay, Aaron said, I wonder why, out of all the people, why Randy? Why did he specifically go missing? And then Dahl said those were the premium upgrades, weren't they?
I would say that the wire wheel hubcaps were probably the upper premium. If they didn't have an aluminum wheel, I bet.
There's the ones that are in the brochure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard saying. I would have thought all these years at some point the Leaches would have presented an actual photo of the car. I just have a hard time believing that nobody has not presented. Even another family member, an aunt and uncle, said, oh, well, here's a picture of the car when you guys was at, Joe Bob's birthday party. We took a picture out in the driveway. Here it is in the background.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when you get a vehicle, and you take a picture, it's the car's making the appearance, not you.
Yeah. Well, you think about it back then too. I mean, you didn't take as many pictures of other things. You took pictures of family and,
That is true.
So, I mean, it would be something the car could be in the background of a picture with people standing in front of it.
Exactly.
So now we take pictures of everything.
Oh, yeah. The floor, the ceiling. If you ask my kids, that do Snapchat, it's the ceiling, it's the floor, it's whatever.
That must be a kid thing.
But yeah, and I still like Aaron's question, though. I wonder why, out of all the people there, why Randy?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think you could almost ask that for any person who goes missing. Right. I mean, it's, whether it's an accident that we haven't found yet or something else happened, it's just, that's why I think it's a mystery. So.
And I can't think of anybody that expects to go missing, It's easy for all of us to have the mindset that happens to somebody else, that would never happen to me. But pretty much everybody that's gone missing also had that mindset.
I mean, there's a lot of people that have gone missing that were wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, there's so many theories.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely for sure. I think, a lot of times when stuff happens, I think it's a lot of people that are driving in bad weather and go off the road. Something happens to them. I think a lot of it is just foul play. You were involved in something you shouldn't have been involved in, and you saw something you shouldn't have seen. I think those are probably the most leading things. And then, of course, there is people who have had enough and want to be done in life, and they go out how they want to go out. I think that's a lot of stuff too.
Seeing Dow has a good question here. I know there's rumors of Randy living a new life. I know this is the obvious, but has anyone ran his social security number to see if it's still active, just to put those rumors to rest? I don't know this for certain, but with them legally declaring him deceased, would that be something that they would have had to have done to be able to do that?
Oh, that's a good question. Because I was just telling Denny, I looked over at him while I was reading your comment and thought, why didn't we think to do that or have somebody do that?
Yeah, I don't think all these years of all this being discussed,
right.
I don't think anybody's ever brought up his social security number.
Very good question.
Of course, his bank accounts have been brought up, and there's never been money drawn out, nothing like that. But I don't think anybody has ever. I don't think I've ever seen anybody out of the Leach group, including, their spokesperson that said, hey, somebody tried scamming Randy's social security number and used it to do this, or, hey, we had a notification that somebody tried doing this. I've never heard of anything like that at all.
Well, so we're going to ask Dennis a question. Dennis?
Yeah.
Can we contact the officer that you have been in contact with the Leavenworth Police Department and see if she would be interested in looking into his social security number to see if anything has gone on with that over the years? I think that's a very good question and a very good thing that should be checked out.
It is a very good question. And like Alex, I can't think of a time this has come up.
Right.
As Dal says here, yes, SSA would be notified and his social security number would be deactivated and all credit reporting agencies notified. So that would be, and Dal, correct me if I'm wrong here, that would be when they are going to declare him deceased. But from the time that he went missing until that particular time, could he have used that social security number somewhere that there would still be a record of? Because this is definitely, as Tammy's saying, something.
Yes.
I've actually talked to somebody because there's a detective with the Leavenworth Police Department that I've talked to on multiple cases. But there's also somebody with the Sheriff's Department that has reached out. And I can get a hold of him too and see, because the Sheriff's Department are the ones investigating, and run that by him. And Dal said yes. And Byron said, I would think so, up until he was legally declared deceased. So those who don't know, and Byron, I hope you don't get mad at me for this, but Byron does have some law enforcement experience too. So he is very, very helpful. Dal says, yes, databases were not linked from state to state, and most agencies still aren't connected, which is why there's a national database that each department puts information in for missing people or warrants. It's good information to know.
All these years.
Dal, I got to say, you're bringing some very good stuff to the table tonight.
My goodness.
We're glad he's here tonight.
Yeah.
So that one's got me, because that one's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every state has their own privacy laws, which is why.
Yeah, and it might be good just to check. Okay.
Wouldn't they have to have a family member be the one to do the social? We can't just out of the blue, I need you to run this number.
Well,
is that how?
I would just be asking them, do they know if this has been done? And you may want to look at this to see if this has been done. Because obviously they're not going to be able to give me any
Right.
information
That's
on
what I
that.
was.
But it would bring it to their attention just in case it hasn't been done. I mean, I would think that they would have done that, but no.
Well, I would think so too, because if you think about it, it's been how long and nobody's, I mean,
Right.
goodness.
Yeah, it might be good to just check and see if that is part of the that it's like a regular check the police department does. They check that on a regular basis, or what the standard process is for that. And then when you're going to make the declaration of death, that's also like a final check they do before they close everything up. So.
And Dow has another good point here. You can, if he has been declared deceased, Randy wouldn't have any expectation to privacy if he is still alive.
That makes sense then.
That's true.
Wow.
Very good question.
Yeah. Very good.
Definitely wouldn't hurt.
I have a question that I've been thinking about. I think I kind of know the answer to it, but it's maybe more of like something how I wish things would work. But is there any way to do like live satellite views? I mean, obviously we can go back this far, but anything that would help with investigations? More
we
real
don't
time?
have access. The general public doesn't have access to actual live. Law enforcement, to an extent, sometimes can. I'm sure that's going to cost them to use those resources.
Yeah.
But I don't believe there's live imaging that's available to the public.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that, just thinking about it, I know the satellites are in motion, and I know, they're expensive. The time is expensive in that, but if we can use the satellites in these, wars or acts of aggressions and things like that, I think there would be value to also using it to help find people that are missing, because there was a case where a gal had some dementia issues, and she was driving and she got lost. And if they would have been able to have a satellite, because they kind of had a decent idea of where she was. And if they would have been able to use a satellite to pinpoint where her car was, and I don't know all the technology, like if they can, again, that would probably take some work and some time and experts. So I don't know how much that would cost, but in theory, if they would have found her car sooner, she may have survived. So, again, there's so many cases, that might be an issue too. So, but I don't know. It's just something I had thought about, like if there would be some way to, because people use Google Earth and can scour it, and I know there's privacy issues in that too, but I mean, Google Earth is pretty detailed sometimes too. So, I mean, that would be it would be a nice thing to have. So if there'd be something like that.
Oh yeah.
Well, I know with like the case that we had, oh geez, that was 2 years ago now. The lady from South Dakota that went missing. That happened right in our area, but she was from South Dakota. Well, she had disappeared, and the husband, if I remember right, went to the car dealership because she had a brand new car that was like a year old. And the dealership was able to pull up live GPS, and that's when they tracked her car to the next town up from me and Tammy on I-29. And that's Tammy and I went out. Oh, geez. Were we out for 2 or 3 hours searching for her? Because it went like gang fire, like crazy within like 2 or 3 hours that this guy was on the pages down here basically looking for his wife.
Because she ditched the car.
Yeah,
it started dinging once it was alive.
Yeah.
It was looking for her, so she knew that she knew what was happening.
Yeah, as soon as the thing in the car went off saying that the car was being tracked and trying to ping it, she pulled over and got out of the car and started walking. So once we had word of this and the whole story was happening,
Yeah.
Did you see Dal's comment?
I just saw Dal's comment.
Dal's comment is, Alex, this is a game changer for you. I actually have a photo of Randy's car.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
But going back, it says now it's considered more like genealogical research or ancestry you use to be able to look up Social Security information, which was linked to a SSA to interview or to view your records. So, and then, yeah, because after Randy was missing, if he had got a job, SSA might have activity that, yep. So, show credit report.
Hey, Dennis, can you pause the show?
Why?
Because
Uh,
can you put us on a TV commercial?
let's see here.
Neil? Oh. Okay.
Okay. And now it's just me.
Okay.
There we go.
Are
We're
we
back
okay now or
again.
no?
No, we're still live.
Okay. Okay, just a minute, guys. He's okay.
Okay.
Just once, yeah.
No, but these are all great comments.
Yeah, he just picked up his phone.
Dal has a
Okay.
lot of good information.
There we go. I was gonna say we just left poor Tamara by herself there.
Yeah, no, it was just me for a couple seconds.
No, they're both on the phone at the moment, Alex and
Okay, no worries.
so.
Yeah, no, Dal has a bunch of great comments. and
Oh
great
my goodness,
information.
yes. Yeah, we can't do commercials, Alex.
Yeah. Well, you just need a word from our sponsors.
Yeah. But yeah, that satellite, you know how much that would come in handy for so many other things.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I know the logistics and the cost and everything might not be there. And it might be kind of idealistic, but I think like that one case that I saw, it was just recently. And literally they found her car. They had searched and it had gotten cold overnight.
Yeah.
And they found her car and it was like midnight, 1 a.m., something like that. And she had left her car,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and then started walking and then it snowed.
Oh,
And yeah, it was so sad. They found her that morning and then literally if they would have just found the car, a few hours earlier, it's just.
yeah. Because Mac just said Tamara can run the show.
Now I'm the new person. I get to use my new card
Right,
for a while.
right. Did anyone ever run a DNA test to see if he was a John Doe?
That's a good idea because between
good
John
idea.
Doe's and even Ancestry, like the police are using like Ancestry and 23andMe too.
Yeah. Well, that's like the 23andMe. Megan and I, we just found out a while back that we're Italian. We never grew up Italian. So it's kind of like, what? So.
Yeah, no, that'd be interesting. Yeah, to see if there's
Yeah.
anything like that. I don't know. That would be a good question for the private detective. Just to see if that had been done, if there had been any attempts. 'Cause I've seen cases, you have different shows with those show cases that are solved by that. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Are we good?
We are good.
Okay.
And we are back.
We were just having a little discussion.
My pizza was ready.
I figured.
yeah.
This question right here, real quick. DNA is on file.
Okay.
Alberta did submit DNA, so they would have DNA on file to match
Okay.
Randy.
Okay.
And Chrissy and I were talking about like if they ever did, like a test comparison to like 23andMe or Ancestry, because like let's say he did, again, just an idea or a possibility is if he did go on to a new life, had wife, had kids, maybe his
Right.
kids' DNA would pop up and
Oh
you'd
my
be able to
goodness.
trap him that way.
That's true too.
I mean, that's a big what if, but
And that's what Carl just said. Running his DNA would see if he left on his own or changed his name, started a family. So
See, and that's something you brought up, Alex, when it comes to like Jeremy Coots.
Yes, I had thought that, any case, we got so many cases, but what if, one of these cases where we could talk to the parents to see if they had some hair or their DNA, because perfect example is Jeremy Coots. He was the young boy that went missing in Atchison, Kansas, back in the late 70s. We had discussed what if we had the mom do the DNA or his biological brothers. Sorry, I had to itch my leg. What if we was able to get them to do a DNA like on Ancestry.com, and it would show a hit towards a brother, or any case, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father that was a hit, and then one thing leads to another. I've always wondered, well, why can't we do that? Why can't we get some of these families to do that? But Randy's case would be a good case. His mother's name was Alberta.
because Dal just said his mom could do it and post it on Ancestry and see if anyone else ever does. That way, if something does happen and she's gone, they've got her DNA.
Yeah.
See, and Byron has a good point too. If he had changed his name, he possibly could have applied for a new Social Security number. Kind of along those lines, what if he attempted all of that, or not just Randy, but anybody, assume a new identity and have like a fake identity, fake number, and try to build a life on that? Then it would be harder to get a record of that, I would think.
Yeah. But if there would be, I think so too. That would be, and I think that's why you do it. It'd be very difficult to trace. But the DNA, like you said, if he had kids and they happened to be on Ancestry.com or anything like that, then that would be a direct link. But again, that's assuming that situation too. So.
And Randy was an only child also.
Okay.
Yes. Now, Randy did have cousins. He had multiple cousins between multiple aunts and uncles. I believe the Leach family is pretty big, spread far and wide. So,
multiple states for sure.
Yeah. So I and I'll be honest, I've never looked on I have never looked on Ancestry.com. I've never researched the Leach family. I've never done that, so I don't know.
Yeah, and there's different privacy things that people will set up, but I know when law enforcement does it, it's a little different, and they will go through and they'll rule out, based on family lineage, and things like that too. They can do a little bit more, I think, maybe with the data. And then, I've heard stories, where people find out they have a half brother or half sister. That I've actually had that to two of my family members, where they, surprise, you have a half brother or sister that came up as a DNA match. So
I'm working on getting more.
I went to school with a Leach here in Georgia. I'm telling you, the Leaches are coming out. The name, anyway, is coming out everywhere now. Tell you, when I go, where I work, I package medication for the VA, and every now and then I'll get a name that comes across and it's Leach, and I'm thinking, okay, remember that name. I might need it. Remember that name.
Yeah. So I went to school with the Leach. So
you now?
Yeah.
So for our guests who don't know, I attended school at Baser Linwood the following year that the two school districts combined. So there was the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors from Linwood that combined with, of course, the freshmen, juniors, sophomores from Baser that all combined, that following year. So, Randy was a senior, and then when the school year started, I was a freshman. So I went to school with all of the, underclassmen from Linwood. And so, of course, we heard everything. We heard all of everything about Randy. So, and Randy's cousin was a senior that year, the year after. So, yeah, the Leach name is not a super rare name, but it's not a super common name, I guess you could say.
Yeah. But so. I like Mac's comment. It's like Smith. They're everywhere.
Yeah, you never realize how common names are until you're trying to find a friend on Facebook. And you're like, oh, I'll be able to find them. You type up their names and like there's hundreds of people and you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Same middle initial and everything.
Yeah.
See, I didn't think my name would be common.
Dennis
Rubel.
Or Rubel.
But there are so many Dennis Rubels out there. And even Dennis Rubel Juniors. It was like, wow. I don't feel special no more. So we have actually searched multiple locations for Randy, and that included the very first search we did. Megan and I traveled to all the small bridges over the creeks in the area, and it was very obvious nothing was there, but we didn't photograph or video to have that documentation to show that. So that is something that we will be doing when we're in the area, is going back to those bridges, taking photos and video to be able to show everybody, nothing's there. But we have other searches lined up to do for Randy Leach. Let's see, Cedar Creek, there at the DeSoto boat ramp. Those of you who've watched Adventures with Purpose likely seen them go there, and they went downstream from the boat ramp towards the river. We had somebody share an image with us upstream from the boat ramp that looked like a bumper underwater sticking up. So we did go out there and we did video that. We took a boat out, went to it, and it's a crazy rock formation just under the surface.
Yeah.
And we were able to not only see that, but put our hands on it and determine that that wasn't a vehicle. Mm-hmm. We've been there multiple times. The water levels was so low you could see the bottom, and clearly no vehicle was in Cedar Creek. There was an old boat there that we found, but there was no vehicle in Cedar Creek. I am comfortable calling Cedar Creek cleared from vehicles. Any other evidence we can clear? This is also the same area that the 3 burlap bags of body parts had been recovered from. So I think it probably needs another in-depth look at, but definitely not for a vehicle.
Yeah.
We have been Stranger Creek comes up all the time, and we have been able to confirmed through the NOAA that it was the second year of a 3-year drought. The creeks had a trickle, Stranger in particular, only had a trickle of water running through it at the time that Randy went missing. Now, people have talked about floods and rain shortly after. I do know upstream on the Kansas River, I don't remember the time frame, but they did open the dam and let water come down.
Yeah.
Alex and I know many times discussed the possibility if the car is in a creek and they open that dam and that water rushes down, is that going to backfill the creeks with enough force to move a vehicle deeper in? I was able to confirm with the people that do let the water out on the dam, and they have confirmed that the water does not rush up in the creeks like you would think it would. Instead, it bypasses them. It's coming down at a fairly high rate of speed, and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
There will be some water come in, but it's not enough that's going to raise the levels, definitely not enough to move the vehicle.
Yeah.
So we've been able to confirm that too. So what we're looking at there was if his vehicle did go off into a creek, particularly Stranger Creek, when Harold went there multiple times searching it, the family, the friends did, somebody would have seen the vehicle. It would have been sitting there in the mud.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that he is in a creek in the area. Plus, you also had Adventures with Purpose run sonar up and down Stranger Creek, and they did not get a hit on a vehicle.
Yeah.
So I believe Stranger Creek is cleared. The Kansas Fish and Game had boats out on the Kansas River searching for Randy shortly after he went missing. They had a really rough time getting their boat up and down the river due to it being so shallow. And the Kansas River, the deeper part is toward the center. So if it's shallow enough, they're barely getting through, that's going to leave a wide area along the river that car is going to hit before going into the water. And they were particularly searching the banks to see if something was disturbed where a vehicle come through, and they didn't find anything that was linked to a vehicle coming into the river. Of course, you had the guy in the airplane, the people in the airplane flying over. The highway patrol brought in their airplane doing searches. Adventures with Purpose has been on the river. Other people have been on the Kansas River, and they have not found the vehicle.
Yeah.
The bottom of the river constantly changes. You may have a 20-foot hole there today. 4 or 5 months from now, that hole may be completely gone and it be level. A few months from there, you may have the 20-foot hole again. But for it to change, you got to have the water current moving to change it. So in the middle of a drought with no rain, hasn't been any significant rain, it's hard to believe there's a current running through there that's going to bury a vehicle and keep it buried.
Yeah.
So while I will not rule the Kansas River out by any means, I think it's very unlikely that's where he is. We had the KBI special agent, Dennis something or other. He done an interview for, I believe it was the Kansas City Times or Kansas City Star, to where he said, this was 10 years after Randy went missing. He said that he believes Randy drove off into Stranger Creek, washed out to the river, and could be in St. Louis by now. That one actually ticked me off. You're an investigator who investigated the case. You're going to know there was no water in that creek to start with. Why are you going to come out and say that now? You know,
Yeah.
Be it 10 years later, did he not remember the facts? Did he not have them in front of him and just honestly misspoke? That is possible, but he was very detailed in what he said. So that one still rubs me wrong. I know a couple of years ago I done a live where I fully discussed what he said in that live feed and put out the invite. You know, if he sees this, please contact me. I would like to talk to you about that because I would like to hear from him where he come up with that 10 years later when that wasn't what they were looking at in 1988.
Yeah. Hey, real quick. So we had Erin's question, and she said the Doe Network states that Randy's case was reclassified from a missing persons case to a homicide in 2002. I think we discussed this last year. I think we did a show on it because this was brought to our attention. And then when I believe, Dennis, you said that you had reached out and talked to our connection with Leavenworth County PD, and they said that that is not the case.
Right. They said he's still classified a missing person.
Okay. Because he's still on KBI as a missing person.
Right.
So on, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation's website. So I'm not sure if that was just a mistake on the Doe Network. Of course, we haven't checked the Doe Network anytime soon or recently to verify this, but we did verify it, with local law enforcement that it is still a missing persons case. So.
And then this question, did the FBI ever look into the case or was it just local PD? Local PD, the KBI, and we do have reports showing, physical reports here, showing the FBI was involved in the investigation too, at least for a small period of time at the least. I know a lot of people said the FBI wouldn't do anything. It had no involvement in it, but we do have documentation showing that they were involved in the investigation, at least at some point. And where exactly was Lee's property? My understanding it was near the location of the party. Yes, it was on the same road as the party, 166th Street, but it was
north of the party, and I believe it's on the west side of the road. I think it's half a mile to the north and on the west side of the road.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. And if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to ask them, in the chat, and we will try to answer them as best we can, with the knowledge, what we've learned, searches that's been done by Muddy Waters, so on and so forth. We'll try to answer anybody's questions.
Now, Lee Ayers' property, that has come up multiple times, especially being it wasn't that far away, and just knowing the people there and everything. There is a pond on that property, but there was also a horse fence down along between the road and the pond. So if a vehicle had went through there, it would have had to have went through that fence, which would have been really noticeable. But to my knowledge, that particular pond was never searched. Obviously, if it wasn't an accident, something more sinister, then a vehicle could have been taken around the fence and put into the water. So we can't rule that out. but I know nothing would have come off the road into the pond because of the fence. And the family, everybody was up and down that road looking for Randy, so a hole in the fence would have really stuck out to him.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I do believe Echo Diver may have flown his drone over that pond. So that's something I will get a hold of him and find out. If you haven't watched Echo Diver's videos here on YouTube, where he used his drone looking over bodies of water in Randy Leach's case, check him out. Echo Diver is what he goes by. Really good work he does. Aaron said he thinks that he did. I was thinking he flew it over that one because he's pretty much covered just about every pond between the Irwin residence and the Leach residence. And he would take that drone up and he would take out almost a whole block going down through there and checking those ponds. There was a couple he wasn't comfortable walking away from because he couldn't see deep enough. So he would get his kayak out and run sonar to confirm it was clear. But how he's able to use filters on his drone cameras to see deeper in the water is incredible. So make sure to go check out Echo Divers. If you haven't followed him, give him a follow. Tell him Muddy Water sent you over. You won't regret it. He's a really good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's done some incredible work with his drone. And we can say he's a professional drone person.
Yes.
He does videos for real estate, stuff like that for videos. So he's pretty good at what he does. So
he's also the guy that found Donald Irwin down around Camdenton, Missouri. And I did speak to him about that search. And I mean, he found a needle in a haystack and was able to find him and bring him home.
Yeah. Yep.
And I never thought about filters on the camera until I seen his videos. And it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And yeah. I did find a filter set for the camera on my DJI drone. So I do want to get those ordered, and then I want to get with James and walk through it with him, let him teach me how to use that. Do you still hear from OK Diver? It's been a little bit since I heard from him. It was still really cold out, and he was looking to get back into doing searches this year and was looking for a dry suit. His dry suit had finally gave out on him. I did see he put something out the other day that he was on a search. So hopefully he's able to get back out and be doing this. I do want to try to contact him soon, touch base with him, because he was another good guy. Those who don't know him, he is on YouTube and on Facebook as OK Diver. And he's even joined us on a live feed at one point and had a really good discussion. So definitely check him out too. But Mac, thanks for bringing him up, and I'll try to get a hold of him sometime this week. And in fact, we'll be doing the search at Smithville Lake this year. And I would like to invite OK Diver and James with Echo Diver. I'd like to invite them up to take part in that as well.
Yeah.
So, guys, we have seen, if you could think of something that could happen to a person that would make them go missing, it has come up in Randy Leach's case. So, kind of putting you on the spot here. Alex, if you had to say I lean more towards this being, is this foul play? Is this an accident? Did he leave on his own accord? What would you think on that? Or what would be your thoughts there?
So, as long as we've been doing this, in my heart, what I feel is Randy left. And the only reason I go down that path is because of the National Geographics. There is not one other piece of evidence past April 16th of 1988 that shows anything of Randy. Even though there is 10,000 accusations that he was seen from Lawrence to Eudora to Kansas City to here to there, back and forth. I'm sorry, but there is a picture in National Geographics, and on a scale of 1 to 10, it looks like Randy. Now, granted, it doesn't look exactly like Randy. But let's be honest. How many of us look like we did 5-6 years ago? We all gain weight. We all lose weight. We all change our hair. We all trim our beards a little different. We age. We get wrinkles. People resort to drinking alcohol. People resort to drinking or doing drugs. I mean, let's be honest. We've all seen on Facebook or TikTok where it shows 20 people who the day they got arrested the very first time and then the 10th time they got arrested, whether it's 1 year later or 10 years later, and they're all habitual drug users or they've turned into alcoholics. And you can tell it's the same person, but you can also tell they've changed greatly. So, the way I look at it is we have no proof of anything. All we have is hearsay. And the hearsay is people said, oh, we heard he said he was going to California. Oh, we heard this. Oh, we heard that. Well, I mean, when we talk about things or we look at things, he is... That is our only proof in a way that shows something that resembles Randy after he's been gone. And if you look at these pictures with his haircut, that is, that way he parts his hair, the way this person parts their hair, the facial structure. And granted, this picture is taken at a different angle, but to me, it does look pretty similar.
Go back to that picture real quick, one more time. Okay. Because I think we had talked about, like, sometimes the ears are very identifiable, whether it's an attached lobe or detached lobe, and there are certain things that are very clear on the ear. And if you have pictures, you show pictures of Randy with, it might be good to do like a really comparison, and it might be a little difficult to see and you can't tell based on the picture, but that might be something that might help confirm, at least, if it's like, it looks really similar, then yeah, there's a possibility. So that could be the same person.
And, just looking at the pictures there and the picture in here with the ear, the top picture on the left where you could really see that left ear in this photo, I mean, it has the same roundedness and everything there that looks very similar. Granted, looking at a photo on a screen and in a magazine, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but if it was really obvious, like if it was a detached lobe, because you can see he had an attached lobe. If it was detached and attached, I mean, you could probably, in theory, if you could see it clearly enough, be able to say, okay, that's a big difference. But yeah, if you can't see any difference, again, the more, it kind of leads to it's possible then.
Okay, so I've got two things I'm going to bring up. Tamara, you don't know about this. Dennis does. So we're going to bring up something that's kind of going to be kind of crazy, but I'm going to tell you something first before I say the second one. Okay, so if you all remember a year or two ago, there was some app where you could put in a picture and the app would manipulate the face and turn it. Well, we did that with the National Geographic's picture. And once again, when it would turn the head, even though it still presented that wide face compared to some of Randy's pictures where his face is more skinny, but when it turned, it really did look like this. So I'm listening to Tammy in the background for a second because she knows what I'm getting ready to say. So, okay. So I had a lead come in last year from a girl that we went to school with at Baser Linwood. Dennis, I don't know if you know where I'm going with this. I thought the world of this girl. She was a very nice, sweet girl. So she messaged Tammy and I one night and said, "Hey, I've got to tell you something." And I said, "Okay." She said that when we were in high school, she checked out a book that was in our library. And do you remember now, Dennis?
Yeah.
So this book was about children who wanted to leave and go to California. She tells me and Tammy that book came from Linwood High School, and the last person to ever check it out was Randy Leach. So that was a crazy, crazy kind of lead. And in my way, that was just something else that was like, wow, Randy read this book. So we had Googled the book, the author, and yeah, it talks about kids who want to go missing, who want to leave, and kids that went to California. So it was just crazy because it was like, wow, here's just something else to me that just kind of says, hey, did he really go to California? And it was just one of those things. It's like, did he go because he wanted to go? Did he go because he was on the run and had to get away from something that he seen or got involved in? So to me, it's just kind of one more thing that just pushes me to believe that's possibly what could have happened. Because, like I've said, they did so many searches. They searched by air. They searched on 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers. They searched on horses. They searched creeks. They searched the rivers. They did all this stuff. Now, granted, they only searched so many miles around the party area in the Leach home. That's not to say that 10 miles out of the radius, he could have been going somewhere that night to just drive in, something happened. We can't say 100% because we know nothing. All we know is what we've learned over all these years, and that the only evidence is a few things that point towards California. Because, we've heard everything, like Dennis said, we have heard it all. The only thing I don't think we've heard is that Randy went on a space shuttle and didn't come back. I mean, honestly, I don't think we've ever heard that one. But everything from Satanists, we've heard everything from the world's drugs. We've heard stuff about the mafia. We've heard stuff about the family. And we've got to say it. I'm sorry to say it, but we've heard it. We've heard so many different theories and rumors and accusations and hearsays. We've heard that he was seen here. We heard that he was saw there, that he was seen here. We heard that he was seen walking down the middle of the street on Massachusetts Street in Lawrence one time. There's just, Pete, I don't know if Dennis could show you all, but we have 20 yellow pages, white pages of paperwork, that is just endless documents of stuff that's ever been done or seen or anything. It's just crazy.
Put that in there and show that it's cool. That file box is completely full.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, that we've had so many people reach out to us, so many people that went to school, people's neighbors. We have just gone through so much stuff that it's just crazy, and by all means, and as like Dennis says, we're not here to point fingers at who did what. We just want to find Randy and bring him home. Whether we can find Randy, we find out where Randy is, we can help bring some kind of something to someone, not just his mother, but, Randy had aunts and uncles that loved him. Randy had cousins that loved him. Of course, his mother and father was number one, but they're not the only ones. Randy had friends, so we're trying to bring something. It's, all these years, 37 years, we're still trying to help resolve it,
Seeing you saying that, Randy had his family, he had his friends over these 37 years. And I believe Jen would be able to attest to this with the amount of work she's put into the case. But you put that much work in a case, you become emotionally vested yourself. So it's family, it's friends and acquaintances. And it also now extends out to everybody that's ever worked on this case. And Jen, I'd hate to put you in a spot here, but I know Jen's emotionally invested in this just from the hours. And I mean, she's put so many hours into this.
Jen has done the absolute best map system, detailed accounts, locations of interest, bar none. She is the bomb when it comes to it. Literally, she is the best. If anybody says, well, we saw him here, we saw him there, more than likely she's already has it documented through already documents, witness testament statements, whatever you want to call it. Somebody scribbled on a notepad and said, hey, here you go. She has documented it, and she has it. And, Jen has shared it many a times. I know she has shared this stuff with the family. So it's a crazy circle that needs to be broken, because another year has gone by. Have we had new leads? Have we had new? Absolutely. We have a search right now to do that we have tried to gain access to, and the phone doesn't get answered. I have located the owners on Facebook. They don't answer. So guess what? I would never say to trespass on a piece of property, but I'm going to break the law, and I'm going to do it. So I will, I'll have my ID on me, and I'll have my stuff, and I will have our sign out that says missing person search in progress. Here's the phone number. Call this, or you can call 911. I don't care. But we've had some leads come in on a certain piece of property, and it's time to answer the question and get it done. So,
and I do want to state here, the piece of property you're talking about, I have not seen that property brought up anywhere else other than the person that contacted us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Mac Randall Jr., get that bail money ready. So, and like I said, I would never tell anybody to trespass, but we have exhausted trying to do what we've tried to do. And it's one place that is time to do it and check. And the thing
another
is,
positive with that is it's not just an individual that owns that either. So it's
not
like it's Chrissy's property. It's
a commercial property.
Yeah.
So, it's just time. And, I'm sure if somebody calls the cops at this point, I don't care. It is what it is. And I will whip out my business card, and I will show them who I am, and I'll give them my driver's license and say, write me a ticket for trespassing, because it's my first offense. So, this piece of property needs to be searched because of what has been said, what is there, and we're at that point where it needs to be done. I've drove past this place. I've stopped in front and videoed. I've gone live with us, in our chats, our personal group talking chat, and showed where we were at. And the thing is this property, as a child, I remember driving past it and seeing the house, seeing everything. And these days it looks nothing like it did when I was in high school. So, we're just going to do it. I'll suffer the consequences, because I'll be honest, I've never had a speeding ticket, so I'm not really worried about it. Now, I'm 51 and I ain't never had a speeding ticket, so surely all they're going to do is slap my hand and send me on my way.
Well, I drove past that property not long ago, and there were people walking their dog along that property.
Oh, yeah.
Then there was somebody that was jogging through there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Dennis, I go by it all the time, snooping. And there's always somebody walking their dog down the sidewalk and on the street. And so it is what it is. I'll pull up and throw the hazards on and get out and go look.
We can throw my dog on leashes. Mm-hmm. We can take them out there.
Yeah. I can take that psycho German Shepherd I have and let her take off, then go chase her down and be like the the goofy dog jumped out the door of the truck, and I had to go get her. So
first time for everything.
that's right. So, but no, it's as simple as, we just got to get answers, and more times than not, nobody wants you trespassing. Nobody wants to give you permission to come and look.
And Jen, this one is going to be visual. Still not sure about a potential well or something on the property. If so, we would lower a camera down in there. But from the information that come in, this one would be a visual search.
Yeah.
Could equipment be needed later? Yes. But at that point, we would have to find a way that law enforcement could legally access the property at that point.
Yeah.
Supposedly, and we could probably go ahead and say this, supposedly what we're looking for particularly are some car parts that are there, which is where this brochure thing will really come in handy. Look, see what those parts are from. Could it potentially match up? That kind of thing.
Yeah. And like I said, this place, when I started driving to school when I was a freshman, because like I said, I went to Baser Linwood, and I lived in Kansas City. So, just growing up, my dad was in construction, and we worked all over, and driving past this place, I remember seeing this place growing up, and now it's abandoned. There's nothing there, but what's there? So,
Joanne, you had a good night. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes. Thank you, Joanne. We appreciate you.
I thought 6 was bad.
That's early. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I have to admit, I do that once in a very great while, and I would be going to bed earlier.
Yeah. But yeah, we're definitely gonna get that one done here. I really need to get it done here in the next week or two before things really start growing and it makes it hard to traverse to get to this location. So, but this person had talked with us many a times. All we can do is follow up on it. That's all we can do. So.
Oh, that's true. You have a small metal detector on hand too.
Yeah.
What Tom just said.
Yeah.
So, Tamara, let's kind of put you on the spot here now. With Randy Leach, what direction would you personally be leaning?
Okay. Yeah, I have done nowhere near the research that you all have. Or any people that are on the chat as well. My gut instinct, and I thought about it, like when you start asking too. My gut instinct is, and again, who knows for sure, but it's more that it was an accident. Something happened, after he left the house, the party, and it was an accident of some kind. I don't know what that means necessarily, but I can work on that and see if I can get any more detail, but I do feel like it was an accident that, I don't feel strongly that he left. That doesn't mean that it's not right. I don't feel strongly that, there wasn't foul play. Again, doesn't mean that was right. Or it could be maybe there was something that happened that led to an accident. That's also a possibility. But there was an accident of some kind. And I do feel like when you were mentioning that property, I do feel a lot of energy around it, but that could just be your intensity too. Just determination, and a lot of focus. Because when you have a lot of focus on a certain area, that will create a lot of energy too. But yeah, I feel like at this point, that, yeah, accident seems to be the strongest option that I would lean towards. You know, it could be something a little bit more unusual too. I've had some hints towards that, but I mean, we just don't know. So, but that's where I feel like I said, it could be anything, but that would be my strongest possibility at this point. So,
yeah. You know, and that's what is amazing about our team is we don't all agree. You know, we all have different ways we look at things, you know, and that's okay. And people, I mean, people, you know, need to realize that. I mean, okay, let's take for an example right now. So Aaron wrote, he was a month away from graduating, getting his diploma and getting his car. I don't think he ran away. Well, I mean, yeah, because from what everybody says, Randy was a good guy. He was a hard worker. You know, he had the want and drive to do things. I mean, he had just got a new John Deere lawn tractor. He was mowing grass, making some side money, you know. So, yeah, exactly. Why would he want to do that? But here's kind of an odd turn for things. So I think we discussed about the play that was brought up. So there was a play done by some people at the Kansas University in Lawrence, Kansas. This play was about Randy and Randy going missing. And it basically leads up to Randy pre-graduation, pre-party to Randy disappearing. They do a pretty good job. They do a job of Randy. They do a job of a person playing, you know, Harold, Randy's father. There's kids from school. There's, you know, there's all these other things that are brought up. Well, you know, in this play, they really make Randy out not to be a very nice person. They make it very clear in this play that he didn't care about the car. He didn't care about college. He just wanted to get away. And what's funny is from what I gather, and Dennis, you might have to help out on this if I remember correctly, but the play was wrote off of newspaper articles and stuff that the play people had researched and done their documents, and they had read documents, newspaper articles, stuff like that, and that's what they based their play off of.
I believe it was.
So where was all this stuff that says he was a terrible person? Where was this piece of paper that said he could care less about the car that was being restored at a body shop in DeSoto? So, yeah, I mean, why would any kid who had all this coming, why would he want to leave? But then again, why, when you look at this play that was designed off of information that was from newspapers and documents and hearsay from people, basically saying that he wasn't a very nice person, he didn't care about things, he could care less about this car, and so on and so forth. And what's crazy too is that play has been taken down, put back up, taken down, and it's back up again. I just watched it yesterday because I have it saved in my save section on my YouTube, and sometimes it'll be a blank and it says this video is no longer available, and then you go back a couple months later and there it is, and then you can watch it. So that's just crazy, you know. And I think, Dennis, didn't we have the playwright's name?
We do.
And I think you
it's
emailed
in there somewhere because I emailed them and I haven't heard back yet.
Yeah. Because we basically, you know, we had discussed this, and this was unfortunately before Tamara came along. So not that we're leaving Tamara out of the conversation. It was in the past. But Dennis and we've talked about Tim. Like they made him out to be a jerk. That he didn't care. He wanted to leave and go. And
oh damn! I just
there was stuff about California that was brought up. There was, all these different things that happened. So,
yeah.
We're getting what the play was called. We're finding it. We just had, there it is. That's the paperwork I need, right?
I'm actually logging off my phone off of YouTube, and I'm going to go pull it up on my phone.
Let's see. Leaves of Words. Leaves of Words.
It's interesting that you bring that up. I had a friend recommend. Now, this isn't a missing person; it was a criminal case. But there's a TV show. It's actually a mini series, and I think it's on. Oh goodness, it's on HBO. It's called The Beatrice Six. And it was a case of 6 people that were falsely accused of a horrible crime. And the whole process of how that occurred, and they did a play about it, and they did it in the town and everything, and they showed it in the town, and it took like 18 years for them to be vindicated through DNA, and even then that was controversial, even though it was very clear. And they, it took a lot of work to reverse it. But even like the town, it was so embedded in the town that this was a certain way. But I just find it interesting that they actually did a whole play on it. And they talk about it during that series. It was actually a very good series to watch, like how the police work went. They interviewed everybody. It's a very good documentary. They interviewed all the police people that were willing to be interviewed, the people that were part of that were arrested as part of this. And then the police that were involved in it, and then how things changed over time. And it was a very good kind of seeing like that perspective of like how people go through it. And then, then they did a play on it, and the play actually was the goal for that play was to be very healing. They wanted to bring out the truth, and because there was lots and lots of data at that point, like 18, 20 years later. But their goal was to find healing, to bring out the truth to the people, because there's some things that were known, but the public didn't really know or understand fully. But the goal was to help the family that, that the tragedy happened to, help them heal, and help the family, the people that were wrongly accused, heal, and bring the community together. So I don't know what the goal of the play for Randy Leach was, if it was just, more to give a point of view, or a point of view as they understood it. But
yeah.
It was really, really harsh, that play was.
Yeah. So I know it's backwards, but the person's name that posted the play is Jeremy Auman, 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 and it's EAT production of Leaves of Words, and it's the black and white PBS edit. So it is still there. This is live right off of mine, and I know it's backwards.
No,
and I don't know how to.
It was fine. We could read it.
Oh,
we're good.
That's right.
Yeah.
You guys can read it, but I can't.
Yeah.
Everything's backwards. So there it is.
And Mac, I'll send you the link over, Mac. It may be tomorrow sometime, but I'll get the link to the place sent over to you. And Alex, kind of backing up a minute, how everything that we've seen and everything that we've heard about Randy is he's a really good guy. I mean, basically the all-American guy. Then you have like the play showing a different side of this. What I'm going to say here, I am not directing this at Randy Leach's case in any way. This is just a generalized statement. something that I have noticed in every case that we have worked on, we get the same descriptions of the missing loved one. That's how their loved ones view them. You know, they're not wrong for saying that. But some of the people that we have looked for, no other way to say it, they weren't good people. You know, they're missing people and they need to be found. So we do our best to find them. But it turns out they were not good people at all.
Yeah.
Yet all the descriptions we get from loved ones is this is the all-American person. You know,
Yeah.
you won't find anybody any better than them. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times that, you know, the family that's left there after their loved one goes missing, that's how they remember their loved one. And that's the description that they give.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it to always be accurate just because of cases we've worked on. And again, I'm not referencing that at Randy Leach's case at all. This is just a generalized thing, but that's something I've noticed with the cases.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you know, I am friends with Keith Kaufman. Keith Kaufman lived next to the Irwins when the party happened. And Keith had told me a couple stories, you know, because Keith was a junior when this happened at Linwood. And Keith told me that one time one of the kids at school had broken his leg or his knee, and that Randy would carry this boy up and down the stairs between the levels of school every day because there was nobody to help this kid. And you got to remember, Linwood was a really small school. I mean, Baser was small. When Baser and Linwood combined, it was still very small. I can't remember the senior class, how many there was at Linwood. I think it was 30, 35.
Yeah, it was something like that.
I think there might have been 100 kids in the whole school, maybe. And when you know, I think there was 300 and something when I was a freshman. But you know, Randy carried this kid with a bummed leg and, you know, helped. And then there was another time that Keith said that this other kid was picking on Keith and another kid, and Randy basically straightened that out real quick. And this other boy left Keith and this other guy, left them alone. So yeah, there is good stories of Randy by all means, you know. And we're not to say that Randy was a bad person or a good person, because it's not our job to judge him.
Right.
You know, we know whose job that is, and it's not ours. But it's the simple fact is, you know, why would Randy leave? Well, if he did leave, we don't know. We don't know what was going on. But what, you know, why did these people make a play about somebody and portray this person as being an a-hole? I'll say it. That's the way they kind of portrayed him in this. He wasn't nice to his parents. He didn't care about the car that was getting, you know, it was, you know, okay, well, let's go back. Is this how a typical teenage boy acts? I sure didn't act that way towards my parents.
Oh, no.
Oh. You know, but I mean, I know kids that did act terrible. I mean, that's life. There's good and there's bad. There's up and there's down, you know, that's how life is.
Yeah.
So can we judge him and say that he was a good person? Or no, we can't judge him and say he was a bad person. The only thing we can do is listen to what other people said about him and try to bring answers to, of course, his mother and everybody else. his friends, his aunts, uncles, his cousins, whatever. That's us bringing, because his mom, and of course his grandma and grandpas are all gone, but it wasn't just his mom that lost their son. It was their entire family lost a nephew, a grandson, so on and so forth. So, it's just so hard when you look at stuff and try to tell people, well, no, this is kind of how he really acted. Well, no, this is how he really was. Well, he was the all-American boy. No, he was getting drunk every weekend and smoking weed. We've heard it all. But like I said, we haven't heard that if he went to the outer space on the space shuttle.
Yeah, we're still debating that one.
So, I know it's not. We're not laughing to be laughing, being funny. It's just the simple fact is we've pretty much heard anything and everything, and when it comes down to it, is 99% of it is just going to be BS, because in the end, there's only one thing that happened to him. The other 99% of everything that's ever been said is just rumors and stories and made up stuff, and sorry, I don't mean to ramble.
So we got a few comments. Aaron, is Randy's case the youngest missing persons case you all had? If you mean in age-wise, we had everything from 3 days old up into your elderly.
We had one that was from the 1800s at one point, wasn't it? Like a man that had gone missing back then.
No, it was early 1900s.
Yes.
Mac, what I want to know is, do the people who wrote the play actually know Randy? I would love to know that answer.
Yeah.
And teens will say and do
What they
to
have
fit in with their peers. Yep. And I know I seen that a lot when I was in school, and still see it today.
I was part of that peers. I had peers. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Dennis, I got a dumb question. Or I don't know if either three of them, you can answer this, or if anybody in our audience can answer it. Can we share and replay that play on our channel without getting in trouble or causing issues to the original?
There is a way that can be done. A lot of it comes down to how you use it and what you're using it for. The Fair Use Act or Fair Use Law. So it would come down now to bring it on here and just show it. You're probably not going to be covered because you're taking away their views, because YouTube, and they've got a big following over there. So their views, the algorithm, they're making money on that. So to just show it here, you're taking away from them, so you're not covered. But to show it on here, to discuss it and have a discussion about it, meaning you would play a scene and then have a discussion about that scene, then you're covered under the Fair Use Law.
Yeah.
So it could be done that way.
Yeah. You might need to have I don't understand all the laws myself 100%, but you might even need to have a little screen, a little video in screen while you're showing the video. I think that might be a new YouTube thing. But yeah, I mean, I've seen that all the time with different TV shows, and that it's that fair use law. You just don't want to show too much. And you want to have that, usually a video in screen with it, and then have a discussion. Definitely not the full thing, unless you get their permission, but
right.
But I mean,
I would also, where you've got Alex with Muddy Waters, and then you got underneath there, I would actually put the link to their channel, there as well.
Yeah.
And
But I
then
mean,
the advertising for them as well.
I can share it on Facebook and not have to worry about it because anybody can swipe something from there.
Right.
Well,
I wouldn't show the whole thing.
I just did. I just shared it on our post that we did today about this show that's going on right now.
Oh, you just shared the link to it?
Yes, I just shared the link to it.
Yeah.
So
now, do you know the name of the book that you mentioned that Randy had checked out? I've got it in that box somewhere, and I can't.
I do not off the top of my head, but I'm sure that Tammy can figure it out because we can go back and look at our conversation in Messenger with that person that had mentioned it. So I would say that book was it had to have been wrote in the late 70s or early 80s. Let me see.
And Aaron, if you email us on there, we can get the name for you and email it over to you if they're not able to find it.
I'm seeing if I can search it right now.
So did the book basically just explain like how to do it or like why to do it? Or was it just like stories of other kids that had done it?
I'm trying to remember. I know she said that the book had something to do with children who wanted to go missing on their own or children who were missing and went to California. It was something about missing children in California. And I'm trying to. I'm actually Googling that stuff right now and trying to recognize the book. I'm trying to remember the author, if she was a teacher or something. But I know this girl, she said that she, when she checked it out, she said the last person to check it out was Randy Leach. And it was a book that evidently had come from the Linwood High School and was brought to the Baser High School when they combined school districts. And she evidently had checked it out, one of the years in high school. So,
did she say the date when he checked it out?
Honestly, I don't know.
So close.
I'm texting Tammy because I don't know where she's at right now, in the house or on the property. So.
Yeah, wonder if that book is still in the high school library.
If if it is, it may still have it. I mean, it depends on the school, but it may still have.
Yeah, it may still have. That's true. Yeah.
Like I said, that'd be quite a stretch, a long period of time. You never know, but
Yeah. So yeah, that's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Goodness.
For the life of me, I cannot remember what it was.
I'm going to see if I can just bring up.
you would think though that after all this time, that if like a friend of his knew, I mean, he would, maybe he was sworn to secrecy about it, but
Yeah. I mean, I've always, you think about what is something that a lot of people, when you talk about like holding something on your conscience, how long, if something that happened that what happened? How do you deal with it? How do you live with it? We have thrown our P.O. box number out. We have thrown our email out. We're not in the business of putting someone in jail. We just want to bring someone home. That's all. Write a note, put it in an envelope, and send it to the P.O. box. You don't have to put a name on it. You don't have to put a return address. All you got to do is put a note in there. We're going to open it and read it. We've had the P.O. box now for 2 years, year and a half. We have only received 2 pieces of mail to the P.O. box. And that was from the farm show sending us paperwork. We have never to this day received anything in our P.O. box about a case, about a donation, a thank you letter, a Christmas card, nothing. So, so Mac, if you're listening, send me a note. Send me some bail money so when I go to jail for trespassing in a couple weeks, I know I'm loved. So, but no, in all seriousness, I've always 30 some years have gone by. I mean, you would think that somebody would have decided, hey, it's time, let's help. So, but no. So we just keep on keeping on, moving on, and hopefully in the next week or two, boots on the ground. We're gonna check out this location, and by all means, we'll record. And if Dennis says let's do it, let's go live. If we feel it's okay to do it, we're gonna go live. And we will. You all will be there with us. So,
And we've got several other searches coming up for Randy too. One of those could be within the next 2 or 3 weeks. I would say 3 or 4 weeks. Some of these may be back to back too, but there are searches coming up for Randy. Most of these will be water searches, but it will incorporate ground searches too. So, because I don't know, I lean more toward him not being in water at this point, but at the same time, we can't rule it out.
Yeah. And we do have another interest location of water that is off of a highway. So that is on our list to check, and it's literally going to be pull up on the side of the highway, get out of the vehicles, walk down there, throw in the eye bobber, sonar bobber, see how deep it is. If we get some good readings and it's deep, then we will move on to the next part of the, searching this particular location. So the only thing I want to do is, and I haven't not done yet, is I want to get on historical imaging websites, and I want to see if that water was there in 1988. If that water was not there in 1988, this spot, it's a spot that I feel if a car went off of the road, it would be gone in seconds in this water, because where the place is and it's holding water, to me, it's got to be deep because of where it's at. And whether the water was there in 1988, it could be anybody that's been missing anytime recently. They could have simply been going in that road and drove right off. What's wrong? Oh.
Hey, Alex, was the name of that book called The Runaways?
No.
No.
Tammy said no.
Okay.
It was how to. Let me see if I can find my.
I text you.
I know. I haven't looked yet. Hold on. It was. I think it was called How to. Gosh.
Because there's books in here called Runaway for Beginners.
No.
She says no.
It was more on the line.
There's one, How to Run Away from Home. What are we teaching our kids here?
Yeah, that would be interesting for a school to have a book like that.
Right. Good.
Well, Catfish didn't stick around too long tonight. His hush puppies must have burnt in the oven. Well, does anybody else in the audience have any questions while we are trying to research this for a second here?
Okay, right here's the book.
Do you have a picture?
They never came home.
Okay, Tammy says the name of the book is They Never Came Home.
1968 mystery thriller.
1968
mystery thriller.
mystery thriller.
Okay.
Now, what's the the name of the author?
I think I found the book.
Lewis Duncan.
Lewis Duncan.
Yep.
Is the author.
Oh, good Lord. That's horrible. Give me 1 second here so I can.
Okay, yep, I found it.
Oh, that's horrible.
It looks like an LED light.
I know, right? All right.
It says the novel was nominated for an Edgar Allan Poe Award.
see if I can.
Okay, so this was like a fiction book.
Yeah,
Fiction book.
Is that what you're saying?
Lois Duncan. Yeah.
Oh, that's still not any better. Okay.
Yeah, thriller. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's other books by that author. So it was kind of
And
like
this person said that she knew this all this time, but she had never told anybody after it happened.
Yeah, I see the. So it has a picture of two kind of. It's a blur. It's a green picture.
Yeah.
Two people kind of standing in black silhouette.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tammy says yes.
Okay. Yeah, from the editorial reviews says from the publisher says they couldn't have just disappeared, or could they? That's the way it looks when Dan and Larry don't return from a weekend camping trip in the mountains. Then Joan, Larry's sister, gets a mysterious call from a man who says Larry owes him a lot of money. Where could the brother be? Can Joan, with the help of Dan's brother, Frank, find Dan or Larry? Are the two destined to never return?
Yep.
So it's kind of a mystery book, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's at some point Randy would have had to have checked this book out.
Yeah.
1988 or older.
Maybe he was just
Oh,
reading.
88, 87, 86, 85.
Well, I don't think it would have been that long. My goodness.
Well, I mean, in his high school career.
Yeah.
So,
She was. Whoops. The person was in the same grade as you were.
no, they were younger than me.
Oh.
So what I'm saying and what I mentioned earlier is when the school districts combined in 89, the beginning of 1989, so between April of 88 when school ended and those few months before we started the freshman year, they brought all the books from Linwood over to the Baser High School building, which became Baser Linwood. So that's how that book was introduced over there. Well, no, wait a minute. No. Well, she didn't say when she checked it out.
Okay, hold on. I can't remember, but I remember sharing it to the teacher way back then. We are talking 88, 89.
Okay.
Okay. When I was in middle school, Linwood, I got a library book called They Never Came Home. It was about teenagers who went missing. They went to California, never to be seen again.
Okay. Let's back this up. The book was still at the Linwood High School because the Linwood High School became Baser Linwood Middle School. Because when my brother transferred into the district and went to middle school, he went to the old Linwood High School. So that book was still there at that time. So she had to, that book was still there when she went in 89, because in 89 she would have been, she was in, she would have been in 8th grade.
Yeah, that's what I'm
She would have been in 8th grade, and I was a freshman.
So at the time, she said the last person checked out the book was Randy Leach. Weirded me out. Didn't think much about it back then. He hadn't been missing very long.
Did you hear what Tammy just said, you all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So is it a different book? Because this one doesn't talk about California.
Really?
Yeah, it says that the two boys went camping and disappeared.
Oh, well, she said she read it, but she said, I would love to read it again. So it's been a long time. She messaged me this year, so it's been that long for her. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it says one of the reviews says the two boys, what does it say? Joan's boyfriend, Dan, let's see. Dan was graduating this year and was supposed to go be valedictorian. They had planned to go to the Mogollons Mountains for a weekend and return on Sunday night. But when Wednesday rolled around, people started to wonder what was going on, and they sent out search parties. After days of searching, people gave up. But then Joan got a call from a man named Mr. Brown. It's basically a teenager, it's meant for teenage, readers about kind of this thriller mystery.
Yeah.
So,
Well, like I said, maybe that's just what she wrote in a message to me. She might have forgotten,
Yeah, it might be a different name. She might have gotten the name mixed up.
Yeah.
So, Jen, to answer your question, this would have had to have happened at the Linwood High School the following year, which would be 89, and that's when the Linwood High School became the Baser Linwood Middle School, because she was a year younger than me. So when I was a freshman at the high school, she was, I believe, she was a year younger than me. So she had to have been 8th grade at Linwood High School building, which was now the Baser Linwood Middle School.
And Alex, we've passed the 2.5 hour mark, so I don't know how long it's going to let us go before kicking us off.
Oh, yeah. We are. We're 2 hours and 31 minutes.
And Ellsworth Carl said, if we send something for Randy's mom, can you pass it along to her? We probably could, but I would recommend they have a website that's called In Search of Randy Leach, or insearchofrandyleach.com. They also have a GoFundMe that's named In Search of Randy Leach. I would recommend going that route so you know for sure that is going straight to her. Worst case scenario, you could, and we would get that to her, but I would recommend going this route. Alex, we're probably for sure going to have to do a part 2 on this.
That's fine. I mean, Randy's case is, until the day he comes home, this is a whole chapter in a book.
Right.
Unfortunately, I mean, and we could talk about the same thing 100 times over, and there'll always be something new to talk about.
Tonight was no different with Dow and the Social Security number.
Yeah, that was good. So Aaron wrote, I see a review that says the setting of the book was in New Mexico and then in California.
Okay.
So maybe that's where she had come up with the California part. But all I know is Randy checked that book out, and I mean, this is just me and this is just my opinion, but when I was in high school, I was checking out books about cars and motorcycles and dirt bikes and this and that. I wasn't really checking out books about stories, but I'm just saying that's just me,
Ew, books, ew.
So,
I think everyone had whatever interest you had, I guess.
Yeah.
Because mine was more sci-fi and mysteries and fantasy and The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Well, it was quite obvious that he wasn't very happy at home.
Yeah. So,
And a lot of us probably weren't, because we wanted to be on our own. We wanted to be independent and make our own decisions, and so at that time period in your life. So
yeah. I mean, like we said, we don't know. All we can do is the leads and the information that is.
Aaron, I read Elvis and Me in high school.
What? So, there's just no telling, was there a reason he read that for a reason, or did he just like reading books? I mean, I liked reading magazines then,
So did I.
I had a big 4-wheel drive lifted up truck. I also had a fast car, so I read everything from Hot Rod magazine, Carcraft magazine, Super Chevy, to Peterson's 4-wheel and off-road, to 4-wheeler magazines and dirt bike magazines. So, all I know is we just got to keep working on it and trying to get answers, and, a collective group effort, amongst our team members of working on stuff and audience members. They ask questions, we try to provide answers. They bring new thoughts to us and we try to look through them and, we put it back out, so, we try to share everything we can share. Yes, there is some things that we can't share. But, the Muddy Waters team is very open about stuff, and that's just, how it is.
That's a possibility there.
Aaron said maybe his English teacher said they had to read a fiction book for an assignment. That could be too.
That's good. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, I think it's worth reading the book. I'm watching a little bit of a review of it, and yeah, like I said, it's one of those things. Like it depends. Like, did he check it out? Like, did he read it like a month before he went disappeared, or was it like when he was a freshman?
Yeah,
I mean, that not that matters necessarily, but it would be interesting seeing the timing. And yeah I don't know. It's interesting because then he had that on his mind. Was that fresh on his mind? Right. I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean,
in an investigation, something like that definitely would have been something that the book should have been read. They should have been, looked at and just,
Yeah. Well, and here's something kind of to think of too, along that lines of what Tammy just said and what Tamara said is, I forgot how I was going to word that. I'll think of it. Give me a second.
I know that feeling.
I was like going right down this ramp. And then I was like thinking of Tammy and Tamara, what they just said. And then I ran the stop sign and crashed. On a different note, you guys all know what stop means? On a stop sign.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Spin tires on pavement.
Lord, how old is that one?
I learned that while I was at base or Linwood. Yeah. So
I've been around drivers around this area for over 17 years now. Yeah. They still live up to that.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Tammy and I had the grandson in the car a couple weeks ago, and
yesterday he said it.
Did he said punch it?
He said Nani, go faster.
He wants to go fast now. All of a sudden,
that's what his mom said.
So we do a few of those little wide open throttles from the stoplight. Put him back in his car seat a little bit, and he's like, "Faster, do it again." So
I wonder where he got that from then.
I don't know.
know.
Well, his daddy rode him on a dirt bike
Yeah.
not too long ago, and I think he really liked it.
Yeah.
I figured there was someone that went really fast for a little bit. And
Yeah. Well, I really hit a brain fart on. I cannot remember where I was going with that. I had a well thought out thought. Totally got sidetracked. Well, they haven't kicked us off yet.
I'm surprised.
You ain't first, you're last.
Byron McDonald, if you ain't first, you're last. Because second place is first place loser.
Oh my gosh. This is not encouraging.
That's what we used to say when we mud raced. So
See, Jen has an interesting thing, Carrie. If he did run away, did he possess a skill set that was commonly paid under the table?
Oh, wow.
I know there's mowing companies today that will pay pretty much under the table. I mean, some of them do pay under the table, but back then, odd jobs and stuff like that would have been really common as far as like under the table pay of what we would think of today.
And Harold was a mechanic. That was not his full-time job, but he was a mechanic at home. He did work on lawnmowers and tractors and chainsaws. I'm sure he worked on vehicles. So I'm sure Randy had skill set of mechanical abilities to do things.
Yep.
From growing up and, you know, living on a farm type setting and his father working on stuff. I'm sure he tinkered on stuff too. So, but you know, there's no telling what else he learned over time. And, you know, he could have, if he did go out to California, he could have shacked up with people, and there's no telling, you know, we're making accusations, I guess, on what he could have done or he did do. And, you know, we don't know.
We also know that time frame, that was also the generation of fix it before replacing it. They wouldn't just throw something out and replace it because it didn't work properly or was broken. They would fix it because they often didn't have enough money to continue buying new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And he did mechanic work as well, Jennifer says.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of things he could have got into, whether it been in Linwood, California, anywhere else, that he probably could have made enough money to get by on. He wouldn't have lived lavish by any means, but he could have got by.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he could have, you know, I mean, we don't have any, we've heard rumors of where he could have gone in California. But what's to say he didn't end up on a farm, you know, working on a plantation vegetable farm and ended up living on the plantation farm, a ranch or something. I mean, nobody knows. I mean,
people have been living off the grid for years. So
yeah, there's just, you know, and of course back then things were cheaper, even though it was California.
Right.
You know, you could go to McDonald's and eat for $3, not $30 like now.
Maybe it wasn't even California.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we don't know.
Because my other thought was Pam, who's Randy's ex at the time.
Underneath.
We've seen letters Randy has written, you know, he was heartbroken about the breakup. He missed her. And the night of the party, she was actually in Oklahoma at a horse show. Could he have maybe, especially if he did have alcohol or something, when he left the party, could he have just decided to head to Oklahoma to go down to try to make amends with her? But unfortunately, that time frame, she was actually on her way back home to Kansas from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So could he have went that way and had an accident, or just say forget it and keep going? I mean,
yeah. And I think at one time we discussed that. And did we not discuss like fuel mileage? And if he supposedly had $50, $60 in cash on him, I think we discussed how far he could get on that money. Like,
yeah,
could he have made it there and back with $50, $60, you know? And I can't remember if we found out. I think we looked up like a replacement gas tank at one time because I don't think did the brochure say how many gallons the car held? Because I remember us looking up gas tanks like on Rock Auto or one of those websites when we were really trying to dissect things and figure things out. I honestly cannot remember. Surely in the specs in that book, it says how many gallons in that brochure that car held.
Well, oh. Right here.
14 gallons.
So 14 gallons. And at that time, gas was probably, I bet it was under $1 a gallon.
Right.
I mean, I remember our first diesel truck that me and my brother got like in 1996 or 7. Diesel fuel was like 83 cents a gallon. So I'm sure gas in 88 was, I'm sure we can Google that. I'm sure it was less than $1. And if he had $60,
the average price of gas in 1988 was 90 cents a gallon.
Wow.
So he easily could have filled up 3.5 times.
Yeah, because a 15-gallon tank would have cost about $13.50.
Oh, gosh.
Wow.
So I would say,
Oh, that's a good question too.
I would say that car, because if I remember right, I'm pretty sure through the VIN number it showed the 4-cylinder turbo motor. I bet you that car was 18, 20 miles of the gallon at least back then. I don't know, Dennis. Does it show any type of statistics on fuel mileage?
I'm not seeing mileage.
So Jen says, wouldn't he have needed a map to get to Oklahoma? Would that have been in Alberta's car? Well, from where we live, if you get on I-35 and head straight south, it takes you to Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to say if Randy knew that or not. I think Randy's family, I think they did camping and they did road trips because they owned land in Colorado, camping stuff. I mean, that stuff's been pretty well known. And I think there's pictures of them on vacations in different areas. So there's a very well possibility he could have known how to get to Oklahoma City, without a map. But we don't know for sure. I can say
drinking too. He could have just headed off, not thinking clearly.
Yep,
that's true. But I do remember that most of my grandmas and grandpas and my dad did have maps in all of our vehicles.
Yeah,
back then.
Yeah.
So it's very well that Harold and Alberta could have had maps in there. And also, Alberta was a mail lady, correct? She delivered the mail. So she was probably pretty good with streets, names, addresses, because a lot of people have to know that. I mean, they have to be good at it with directions and all that. So
she wants to know where the horse show was.
Oh, I believe it was Oklahoma City, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
And if he did take a wrong turn, he could be anywhere. So exactly.
Hey, if Jen's still on here, she may be able to confirm where the horse show was. But I was thinking it was Oklahoma City, but I could be wrong. Yeah, that doesn't give miles per gallon.
I'm pretty sure we can Google it. I'm sure we can get on the Dodge 600 Facebook fan club that they could tell, even though they don't like me.
I don't know if they'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Once they knew what I was trying to accomplish, they're like, no, don't sell this dude a car. He's going to destroy it.
Okay, I just Googled it, and averages 25 miles per gallon.
Heck yeah.
Highway, you're looking at 30 miles per gallon.
Wow.
I would say if his intentions was to go find her that night, I would think $60 might just be able to get you down there and back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at this point, he's already going to be in trouble. So what's it going to matter if he gets in a little bit more trouble than he's already in? And like you said, if he had been drinking, doing other things, there's no telling what his mindset was if that is what happened. So, for sure.
I keep waiting for this to shut off because normally by 2.5 hours, it's done kicked us off of here. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we might do it at the 3 mark.
Well, Tammy said, I don't know if you guys heard Tammy. She said, well, what if he wasn't drinking and it was just all an act to make people think that? And that has been discussed. That has been brought up numerous times that he put on a show to make it appear like he was, but he really wasn't.
Because he really didn't.
And that's when he disappeared.
Gene, we have heard and we've got documents of people reporting to law enforcement that Randy was known to, when he would go to a party, he would walk around with a can of alcohol, but he wouldn't actually drink it. Yeah. It was an appearance type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of these same people in these documents, one day they're telling law enforcement one thing, and a week later, law enforcement talks to them and they're saying something completely different.
And the whole, he may not be thinking clearly. If someone had put something in his drink, we crossed that bridge as well. We talked about that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, all we have to go on is basically hearsay information that's passed from one person to another, documents from people talking to law enforcement and then going in and saying something different later. There has been very few consistencies with information in the case.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned your friend that lived next to the party location and they went in the airplane searching. He has been the most consistent from that time period to today out of everything that I've seen or heard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, him and I have talked. We've discussed stuff. His mother was the lunch lady. You know, she had talked with police at school. The police had asked her about the kids at school and how they were acting. The night that the Irwin's house caught on fire, his mother was the one that called the Irwins and said, "Hey, your house is on fire." You know, him and I have discussed so many things. And, you know, he was the one that said there was a lot of people there that were from other areas and they were not good people. And that's why they literally walked across the yard, jumped the fence, and walked up and sat on their porch at their house and watched the party from their house. He said they were only there for a short time and then left. He said because they didn't want to be around all those people. You know, like I said, him and I have just had so many discussions about stuff. We verified other stories about people saying stuff to us that was total BS malarkey, you know, and we've discussed things. I've asked him and he's like, "What? No way. Those people didn't live at that house. Those people didn't own that property. Where are you getting this information from?" You know, and it's either lies, someone paying somebody to run their mouths to detour people. There's all kinds of things, you know.
Yeah, I agree with Byron.
Right.
Said which those inconsistencies is a bunch of red flags, like they all know something and covering it up is just my thoughts. I agree.
I think there's definitely people that know something.
Good night, Aaron. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Yep. Good night.
And with Randy Leach's case, I think it'll be more than a part 2. This is one that will not stop till he's found.
Nope.
And that's something that I told Alberta, Randy's mom, when Megan and I met her. We would not stop looking until Randy's brought home. Whether we find him, somebody else finds him, it doesn't matter. He just needs to be brought home.
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, you know, our opinions are our opinions. They're nobody else's. It's things that we all discuss amongst each other. You know, we talk through things. And like I said earlier in the show, anything and everything has been brought to us and said about every conceivable person that's ever been name has been brought up in this. We have heard it all. We are not pointing fingers at anybody. We're not saying this person did it. We're not saying this person did it. All we ever do is look at all the information and try to rationally make decisions on what looks to be factual, true evidence. So,
yeah, because that's the information we need to determine what locations need to be searched.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Dennis, I'd love to find time to look over all your info you have in the case just to see if something would stick out for me. All right, we'll send it to you one by one.
That'll be a while.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
Oh, my.
Byron, there's a couple places that has all you can eat tacos.
Yeah. Yep.
Never go wrong with tacos.
That's right.
No.
That
They're
is
the best.
right. So, well, does anybody else have a question or anything anybody would like to ask? Because I would say within the next minute, we're going to get kicked off because we pushed our limits here tonight. I can't believe Dennis must have put some extra quarters in the machine tonight because we have gone longer than we should have.
Yeah, put the camper in your driveway.
Hey, bring your boat and sonar with you, Byron, and your dive gear. Now we're talking homemade tacos. This is getting better.
Yeah.
Tacos are the best.
We want to learn how to make the real thing, the real taco shells.
So, guys, we're going to jump off of here for this thing cuts us out, but we will be doing another live with Randy soon. And until then, you guys stay safe.
Good night, everybody.